Welcome back to Strictly Money. I mentioned at the top of the show that the greatest wealth transfer is underway. So when it comes to estate planning, it shouldn't be a big surprise that a large number of Canadians want to maximize the inheritance left to their loved ones. However, it's one thing to wish and another to prepare. RBC's latest research is showing that many Canadians, in fact, are not ready. Selene is Director of Wealth Products for RBC Insurance, and she joins me now to discuss common mistakes to avoid so you and your family can keep more of your wealth. Selene, great to have you on.
Thanks, Saijal. Thanks for having me here.
So this is a topic I'm very passionate about because I am seeing firsthand that so many families are not prepared for this. Let's start with the fact, Selene, that 50% of people still don't have a will. And at least from what I see, a lot of them mistake it for an estate plan. Talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And this stat, Saijal, always surprises me. But unfortunately, many Canadians do not prioritize estate planning. Many feel that they're too young or they don't have enough money. Some think that it's too time-consuming, expensive, or complicated, and they don't know where to start. But no matter what stage of life you are, whether you're single, whether you're married, if you have children or not, everyone can benefit from developing an estate plan, which includes a will, and your loved ones will thank you for it, and it'll save them from a lot of emotional stress and grief once you passed away.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dig into the findings then, Selene, because this one really surprised me. 61% don't feel knowledgeable about or have even heard of the probate process. So let's address this. What is a probate, and how does one prepare for it?
Yeah. So when someone passes away, their will must go through a process called probate. And I don't want to oversimplify it because it is very complex, but it's basically the legal process to distribute your assets once you've passed away. And this process can be very costly and very time consuming. Some estates can be settled very quickly, but some can take months or even years to settle.
Really? Wow.
But the fact is that, every will must go through this process called probate.
Okay. And it depends on the jurisdiction as well, right? Like they're all different processes and the fees related to it are different.
That's correct. Yeah. So every province has its own jurisdiction and their own rules around the probate process. So you really want to be prepared. And I think even more importantly, you want to ensure that your loved ones are prepared so they aren't having to pay for the additional fees, taxes, and out-of-pocket expenses that will start to accumulate once you've passed away. And these are things like costs such as probate fees, legal fees, and also estate taxes.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that then and the process? And I'm sure you have seen a lot of examples of maybe these unintended consequences. Can you just share a case where you have seen this go on?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, there are costs such as probate, legal fees, and estate taxes, but there are also other costs that people may not have thought about, but should. Things like funeral costs, settling final utility bills, mortgage payments. And these are all expenses that still need to be paid even once you've passed away. And if you don't plan your estate if you don't plan for these as part of your estate, your loved ones could end up having to dip into their own pockets to pay for them while you're waiting for your estate to settle. And I have a great example that I'd love to share. A close colleague of mine whose aunt passed away last fall, she was named as executor of her aunt's estate. And the will is still going through probate. I think it's going on about 10 months now. But until that process is finished, my colleague has no access to any of those funds from her aunt's estate to pay for any of her aunt's bills. So she's had to use her own money to pay for the legal fees, use her own money to pay for taxes, for the final tax return. And she's had to continue paying bills on her aunt's home. So things like lawn maintenance, snow removal, property taxes, things that people may not think about, but because her aunt's house can't be sold until the house is gone, her will has gone through probate, the house continues to require all of that upkeep. And that amount continues to increase. I think my colleague has had to use about $40,000 of her own savings.
That's unbelievable.
To pay for these.
Yeah, something she probably didn't expect, or he or she probably didn't expect. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think one piece of advice that my colleague does have to offer, though, is that when you are planning your estate, she's going through it right now, ensure that you have the proper resources and funding for your executor to be able to pay for these costs so they don't have to dip into their own pockets.
I think that's great advice that everyone should heed. Selene, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back. A lot more to unfold here.